The Indianapolis Colts must win in the trenches this weekend if they want to come out of week one victorious. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com, and my partner Jake Arthur is our credentialed boots on the ground for the site. We are here giving you our big final preview before Colts and Dolphins week one matchup here on Sunday. We're going to go through the offense and talk about the biggest player matchup and critical factor. We're going to do the same thing for the defense, and then we're going to close out the show with our final prediction and our final thoughts going into this matchup on Sunday. But first, guys, to get some of the news and notes out of the way, the Colts are pretty clean on the injury report. Only running back Tyler Goodson is listed. He is questionable with an elbow injury, so we will certainly monitor that coming up to game day. That is the Colts RB3 along with their starting gunner, but pretty clean because that's the only player on there. Miami Dolphins are a little bit more hampered by injuries right now. Cornerback Ethan Bonner is out with a hamstring injury. Jalen Wright, running back, is out with a knee injury. Darren Waller, the tight end that they acquired this offseason, is out with a hip injury. And then guard James Daniels is questionable with an ankle, and wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge is questionable with concussion. So a couple more injuries there for the Miami Dolphins that they're dealing with there. But obviously Darren Waller is the big one, and we will certainly see the status of James Daniels. He appears to be trending down. So if they are missing him on Sunday, that could be a big momentum shifter, I guess, for the Colts going into this week one game. But Jake, let's dive into the Colts offense versus the Miami Dolphins defense. Biggest player matchup or players matchup that you were looking forward to in this game?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit because there's definitely one I initially had my eyes on. One is I'm more skeptical, and one I've got big heart eyes looking at the matchup. So one, I want to see how Matt Gonzalez and Tanner Bortolini, to another extent, handle Zach Seiler, who is just one of the most underrated interior defenders in the entire league. Really good against the run, a solid interior pass rusher as well. He can get in the backfield. So that guy is very difficult to handle. You've done extensive work on both Bortolini and Gonzalez in the last several weeks, kind of explaining how Bortolini, you can see his mental processing is very quick, and his athleticism is marrying that, and it's looking really good so far. Gonzalez, whereas, is kind of, he's going from tackle to guard now, and it's a bit of a learning curve. It's going to take these kind of live bullets during an actual NFL game, not just preseason games, to get him where he needs to be. And, as a run blocker, obviously he's a little more comfortable right now, but he's not the most fleet of foot guy. He's going to take a little bit to get used to things in pass pro. So one advantage Miami might have there is Zach Seiler against Matt Gonzalez. But then there's another one, Josh Downs in the slot against Jason Marshall Jr., Miami's, their slot corner this week because everybody in their secondary is hurt. That's a 5th-round rookie for Miami, who was not their first plan to be the nickel, against Josh Downs, who we both talked about should have an absolutely enormous year, especially, with the comfort level between him and Daniel Jones. So that is definitely two little areas I've definitely got my eyes on.
Yeah, and I think the big one for me is Braden Smith against a pretty good edge duo of Jalen Phillips and Chop Robinson on his side of the field. Braden Smith, by all accounts, has not had like a terrible offseason by any means, but you have mentioned a couple times this offseason, Jake, that Smith has been a little bit leaky in pass protection, and we can't have that carry over into this first game against Robinson, who was a very good rookie pass rusher, and Jalen Phillips, who he's coming off 2 major injuries already early in his career, but has shown to be a very productive pass rusher when healthy. We'll see what caliber of player Phillips is in this week one game. But Braden Smith's going to have to hold up because Daniel Jones is going to try to get that ball out quick in this game. But even then, you can't be giving up pressures within 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, or this whole offensive system will just break down. So while you're looking at Gonzalez versus Seiler, who's just a fantastic interior rusher, I'm looking at that edge room and looking at Braden Smith and hoping he can get back to maybe the caliber of play that he was at in 2021 or 2022, even 2023, even because last year was a bit of a step back. And as long as he can get up to just kind of adequate play, I think this Colts offense can be fine in pass protection, but kind of a tall task in this week 1 matchup against Chop Robinson and Jalen Phillips there. But that's what I got for my individual player matchup. Jake, what do you have for your critical factor? And just kind of give a little background for what critical factor is for us guys. It's kind of like an overarching theme that we're looking for in this game. So it could be skill position versus cornerback room. It can be O-line versus D-line. It can be certain aspects of that. Jake, what are you looking forward to with your critical factor in this game?
Yeah, so I'm approaching this one with massive caution because whenever I look at a matchup and I see like a clear plan of attack they should go for, I feel like Shane never does that, which, he's paid to know more than I am, of course. But something I look at in this matchup, and I see that the Colts could really take advantage. You can take Miami's advantages on defense and kind of use them against them. They're a very productive, quick, you could say explosive front seven with, again, Seiler, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, Matthew Judon. Like, they got guys that can get in the backfield. You can even look at linebacker core like Jordan Brooks is a guy that's got some athleticism to him. So your offensive line, we don't know much about it yet. So let's just go ahead and assume that Miami's front seven is going to have some success getting into the backfield. Well, you can counter that with these draw plays, especially like out of shotgun. You let the front seven guys get into your backfield, and then boom, here comes Jonathan Taylor with at least a few less guys to have to worry about getting through on the trenches. And you could say the same thing with the screen game as well. We've seen that work against the Colts before as well. You've got these defenders getting into the backfield, creeping closer and closer to Jones. Well, here comes Jonathan Taylor or DJ Giddens, whoever it's going to be, creeping out of the backfield and getting past this wall of a few Dolphins defenders. So that in itself, I think, is a good plan of attack. But you look at it, Miami and the Colts both defensively were not great when it came to yards after contact against the run and yards after catch in the passing game. Both teams not too great at tackling. So you get those out there with fewer defenders left to try and make tackles, and you're getting Tyler Warren, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor with, in isolation with one or two defenders to beat. Those guys can all, cause some tackles to be missed. So we know with Daniel Jones, it's not going to be a big explosive offense. Well, this plays into Daniel Jones's hand right here. Use your accuracy and use your willingness to go short to kind of take advantage of some of what should be Miami's strengths.
Yeah, I think if you make these corners tackle, Jack Jones is not the most physical, biggest corner in the NFL. Make him come up and have to tackle a Michael Pittman Jr., who, with his running back father, obviously knows how to be physical after the catch. Use Tyler Warren out in space and create those yards after the catch and after contact. I do love that, and I think that'll be a big part of this game. My big one for me is Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones identifying pre-snap what they can do against this Miami Dolphins defense. When you have a team like the Miami Dolphins, where, again, their defensive coordinator comes from that Ravens tree, they like to change a lot of things going pre-snap to post-snap. And also when you factor in their secondary, a big way to kind of counteract having a poor secondary on paper or a young secondary is to be as diverse as possible. Throw as many change-ups and curveballs at the opposing offense and make them have to hold the ball an extra couple seconds, because I'm telling you right now, if Jones is holding the ball 3 seconds in this game, this offensive line is not going to hold up against this pass rush after 3 seconds. So they're really going to have to get that ball out quick. They're going to have to identify where they are hot. They're going to have to identify, what coverage concept they're facing so they know what routes are going to win within quick succession. I think Jones did a really good job in the preseason of this, but preseason is very different from the regular season, especially going from, I know they played the Ravens in the Packers in the preseason, but they weren't really showing their full arsenal of pass coverage and in disguise. It's a very different jump now to a regular season game against a Dolphins defense that really got the best of Shane Steichen last year. I know Richardson was the quarterback, and we have our thoughts about Richardson there, but there was nothing really open that entire game because Steichen was just getting shut down by this Dolphins coaching staff on that side of the ball. So how quick is just the pre-snap ability for Daniel Jones to identify where he's hot, where he's going to be able to get that ball out, and how quick can they get to those receivers on the boundary to make those plays after the catch, like you mentioned there, Jake. I think that's going to be the biggest part here. If Jones can get the ball out under 2.5 seconds, 2.6 seconds in this game and give his guys chances to create after the catch, I think this Colts team can move the ball in the Dolphins. It's just if he starts holding the ball, if he's starting to get muddy reads that he's not trusting, that's where we're going to have some issues. So I think the Colts are going to have a plan for this. I think we're going to see a lot of motion in this game. The Colts did do a lot of motion in the preseason to get Jones those pre-snap reads and identifiers, but he's going to have to be on his A game against a Dolphins team that is going to mix and match coverages and just going to change a lot pre-snap to muddy those reads. Jones is going to have to be a true veteran quarterback in this game in terms of just knowing what he's seeing, knowing how to attack, and being confident with the balls that he's delivering.
Owen says it perfectly here. He better look the part there because that's why he won the job.
Right. So, and this is a perfect matchup to show that. Again, really good defensive line, struggling secondary that likes to mix and match. This is where a veteran quarterback should feast because you have to understand where to get that ball out quick, get that ball to your guys on the perimeter, and don't let that defensive line just pin their ears back and get you. This is why Daniel Jones is starting. He's got to show it in this first game.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. So offensively, we are all very eager to see what's going to happen. But defensively, it's a brand new defense as well against one of the most explosive offenses in the entire league. So we'll break it all down in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on all the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks for quite a while now, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly, my favorite way to follow along with football. This week's max discount, last week we told you about Dak Prescott going more or less than 0.5 yards. Hope you hit the more than on that one. Let's go with Lamar Jackson with 0.5 passing yards this weekend. I'm not an idiot, I don't think, so I'm going to go with the more than on that one. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time that they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Zach, I know you're waiting for this Lou Anarumo defense to move you just like you're a Mazda. So let's talk about it. I mean, there's a lot of matchups to look into on this one. We got some really good critical factors in this one as well. But let's start with these individual matchups. And, I mean, there's one that's staring us dead in the face. Are you going to make me go with that one, or which one has really caught your eye so far?
I'll probably let you go with the big one staring in the face because
Okay.
I need to keep harping on a player that I've talked about all offseason as needing a big season, and it starts here in week 1, and that is defensive end Laiatu Latu. We've said countless times this offseason about how this is the year for Latu. This Colts defense will ride or die with how good he's going to be, and I hope it's going to be on the positive end of the spectrum here for Latu. Now, week 1 is a perfect opportunity for him. This Miami Dolphins team, despite being a team that gets the ball out fairly quick, does not boast the best tackle duo in football. Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson. Look, I'm not saying these guys are the worst tackles in football, but they're certainly closer to the worst tackles than the best tackles right now in the NFL. And this isn't a matchup that you need your young pass rusher to exploit. This is a matchup where he needs to get around and finish plays in the backfield. Like, we're not talking about going against Lamar Jackson. here at corner or at quarterback where it's going to be very difficult to tackle him. This is Tua. Like, Tua's not the best running quarterback. He's not a statue, but he's closer to a statue than he is to a Lamar Jackson or a Jaden Daniels back there. So we need Latu to come out here, win his matchups, and finish sacks in this game. I think Lou Anarumo is going to do everything he can to get that time to throw number from 2.3 closer to 2.8 or 3 seconds in the backfield. And when you're a pass rusher in the NFL, that's the best you can hope for from your defensive coordinator. I think Anarumo is going to mix and match so many things that Tua's going to have to hold the ball a little bit longer. And this is where Latu needs to step up and finish plays and be that playmaker the Colts drafted him to be. So I think, again, all eyes are on Latu in this game, in this season, to be that guy the Colts drafted him to be. And it doesn't get better than this first week matchup against Austin Jackson and Patrick Paul. He needs to come out here and look like that top 15 pick, or there's going to be some questions for sure after this game. So it's almost like it's like the hot seat again thing for Latu. Like, this is the time, man. Let's get out here and make some plays. It doesn't need to be like a 5-sack performance, but let's get some good pressures. Let's force the ball out quicker and do your thing this week.
Yeah. Honestly, there's zero reason for the Colts defensive front not to have the advantage in this one. You mentioned Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson just on the surface is advantage Colts. But Austin Jackson has battled a toe injury all week. I think he's off the injury report now. But right guard James Daniels has been downgrading throughout the week with an ankle injury. So he's hobbled. Even if he does play, he's going to have to go against DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. So, like, that's a tall order. So really zero reason the Colts defense shouldn't have the edge in this one. But the one we teased at the top that's staring us all in the face, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle against the Colts cornerbacks. So Charvarius Ward and Xavier Howard, there's a lot to really like about them, especially Ward. Howard is 32, has been out of the league for a year. Like, we don't know what to expect there. But Ward at least has been there, done. I mean, he faced Tyreek Hill last year. Just be physical with these guys. And a lot of this is Lou Anarumo as well, and just scheming up guys being in the right spot and just taking the ability to go over the top away. But I asked Ward about this today, actually, and he's like, guys line up and just assume Tyreek's going to go over the top of them all the time. That's not it. He could take a little 5-yard hitch and take it 80 yards. Like, you have to tackle him as well. So being on top of that is very, very key. I guess the good news is that both Xavier Howard and Charvarius Ward have years of experience going against Hill every day in practice with their former team. So this matchup is very, very well versed on both sides, but that also means that Tyreek knows how to beat these guys as well. So
yeah,
I think Cam Bynum is going to be enormous in this. Like, you're going to have to keep him deep to just police everything back there. And Jalen Waddle gets forgotten about a lot as well. He was considered a burner, great yards after the catch. Like, before Tyreek got there, Waddle was very, very much considered a dangerous guy that you don't want to have to go up against as well. So it's not just the Tyreek Hill show. But yeah, obviously very interested in that one. With that being said, what is your big critical factor, kind of your overarching thing defensively here?
Yeah, I'm actually going to change it up from something I said pre-show to you, because I thinking about it, our two kind of sounded very similar. So what I'm going to just say is communication. You're going against a team where, again, Tua kind of throws to spots of your defense. They have the perfect play drawn up. He's going to throw the in-breaker at exactly 2.5 seconds because he trusts that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to be there and be open against the coverage concept that the defensive coach is throwing out there. So one way to combat that is have your defense, again, disguising pre-snap, but also be communicating and understanding, like, hey, the in-breaker is coming here. Hey, the double move is coming here on the outside. Hey, the RPO is coming. We need to be in our perfect landmarks, getting to our spots, having the linebackers drop to depth. Everything needs to be right from a communication standpoint. This is honestly one of my bigger questions as well coming to this game, because the Colts did bring in Joe Bacci, who knows this system. Guys like Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum know similar systems and have been around the NFL a bit. But for a lot of these guys who are carrying over from the previous regime, this is a vastly different defense. And it's going to take time to fully buy in and understand the system, the scheme, and how it works on Sundays. So there's going to be some bad moments, some learning moments in this game, but can the communication be good enough to hold down a very good offense that's coming into a dome. This Dolphins team, maybe if you get them in a bad weather game, you can hold them to 3 points, but in a dome, clean conditions, with their track speed they have on offense, your communication needs to be on point. And the other point that you need to be perfect with is what you're going to mention as your critical factor, Jake.
Yeah, so it's very obvious it's coach speak, but you have to play physical and you have got to wrap up in tackling. And that's easier said than done because the Colts were not a good tackling team last year. I thought they were physical a lot of the time. I mean, it kind of waned as the season went on. But what I mean by that is it also means getting off of blocks and not just letting yourself get totally washed up into traffic because you take yourself out of run lanes. That way you cannot be in the right spot. You need to be on the outside. The whole point is to avoid letting Devin Achane and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle take these short touches on the outside, making one guy miss and making it a 50-yard gain because they can all do that. I think definitely communication plays a huge part with yours because guys have to be where they need to be. And like when you see these cheat motions and you see all these adjustments at the line, Bocce and Bynum, and Franklin, they have to get guys in the right spots. But you have got to show that this is a better tackling team than it was before, because if you thought there were ugly performances last year in the first couple weeks, giving up 200 yards rushing, that was almost nothing compared to a guy like Devin Achane, who as a rookie was averaging almost 10 yards a touch or something at one point. He's unbelievable. He reminds me a little bit of Jamal Charles, early in his career as well. We know what Tyreek can do. We know what Waddle can do. They're not even the only guys with speed on there. Don't forget, Nick Westbrook-Akina is on the Dolphins as well, and that's the Colt Slayer. He's played for the Titans, and he'd go for 3 catches and 80 yards and a touchdown every time he faced the Colts.
Oh, yeah.
So there are guys out there that can absolutely kill you if your communication's poor, like you're saying, if you're not playing physical and getting off your blocks, and then if you're not making sure wrap-up tackles, square up with guys. There is pride and merit in getting juked out. You know what I mean? If you're square and you get juked out, whatever, you're at least in the right spot. But if you're not even in the right spot and you're taking poor angles, you're late to get there, there's no redeeming quality in that. You know what I mean? Some of these guys are just going to be better athletes and they're more agile, sure, but you have got to do your part. And that's my corny coach speak portion of the day here.
I'm about to say, yeah, Jake's sounding like a middle school coach yelling at kids who just aren't getting to they're hitting their run fits or whatever.
I didn't just say anything that Lou Anarumo hasn't been hammering into their heads all week.
Yeah, one thing I will say, though, is if you thought the run defense was bad last year with how much they missed tackles, if you're missing tackles this year when you're going to be in 90% nickel and maybe 5% dime, it's not going to be 200 yards that you're giving up per game. It's going to be around 300 that you're giving up because at least the Colts had more linebackers and defensive linemen on the field last year. So, yeah, they have to be on point with their run fits, with their just physicality, and they got to finish plays. They can't lead the NFL in missed tackles again. That's just inexcusable this upcoming season. But coming up, guys, we're going to give our final thoughts on this game, our predictions, and one of us is optimistic. One of us is a little bit more pessimistic. And we're going to talk about that in our final segment.
It's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most, so let's break it down. Last night, Thursday night, the season kickoff with the Eagles, I thought Jalen Hurts delivered in a big way. He set the tone with a couple of touchdowns early on the ground. He threw for more than 80% completions as well. When the pressure was on, Hurts came through. No hesitation, no delay. Dude's been on a bit of a heater since last year, I think it's safe to say. And just like Hurts delivered for the Eagles, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday that you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, promo period through 11/18. Welcome back, everydayers. We are putting our final touches on the week of preparation for Colts Dolphins. It is the season kickoff. It is the game honoring Jim Irsay. He's going into the Ring of Honor. There's going to be a lot of in memoriam stuff, I think, going on there. There's going to be a good energy in the building, so to speak, as long as the Colts allow it to be that way throughout the game. But Zach, let's talk about, I mean, we've had a whole week to look at it. We've actually had months to look at this, really. How do you see this game going and why?
See, dangerous, Jake, starting with me here. So we're going to be sounding all negative, and then you're going to come in a little bit more positive.
I'll put the duvet cover over the top and snuggle us in tight. Don't worry.
There you go. But yes, I unfortunately have the Colts dropping this week 1 game. And, interestingly enough, I think if the Colts were to play this Dolphins team in November or December, I would really like them much better in this matchup. But I think just this being a week 1 game against the Dolphins, one, I've never seen this team win a week 1 game. So that certainly plays into my pessimism going into this.
Yeah.
But the two biggest factors are my critical factors I mentioned, where on offense, this is a type of defense that Shane Steichen has just never really shown that he has an answer for. Maybe in the offseason, he did a lot of soul searching and was like, you know what? Just give me a Daniel Jones and I'll be able to finally beat these types of defenses. But I got to see it to believe it with him first. And even if we go back to the games where, sure, Richardson and Joe Flacco were his quarterbacks last year, but against these style of defenses, his game plan, especially in the passing game, was just not good enough. It was simply not good enough to get the job done. It was too simplistic and just not enough answers for his quarterbacks. And I'm scared that that's going to carry over into this first game against the Miami Dolphins, like it has the last 3 or 4 years of his career as a play caller. So on offense, I'm a little bit concerned about Jones not having enough answers. And then when he doesn't have enough answers pre-snap, we're going to start getting some pressure with this defensive line that is, quite frankly, pretty good. It might be overmatched for the Colts' right side of the offensive line. And then we go to the defense. And again, if this were November or December with this defense, I feel so good about the matchup against the Dolphins offense. I don't think the Dolphins offense is great by any means. And I think by November, December, this Colts defense is going to be fully bought in and growing into Lou Anarumo's system and be a fringe top 15, top 12 defense in the last 2 months of the year. But because this is week 1 and it's a fresh new system, the communication's not going to be 100%. And it's that home game against such a fast team where one misstep, one guy not hitting their landmark, one guy not fitting against the run can turn into a 70-yard touchdown. I just don't love those parts of the equation for the Colts in this one. So I have them dropping a close one. I have it being 27-20, Miami Dolphins. But I just think there's going to be just enough there for the Dolphins in terms of the coaching advantage, in terms of the experience, just having the consistency, I guess, of having the same staff from last year on offense and defense. I just think that a lot of things favor the Dolphins. And again, at the end of the day, I've never seen this team win a week 1 game. How can I predict it? I know you have to, Jake, because you forced yourself to earlier in the offseason, but how can I predict this team winning a week 1 game? They haven't done it since I've covered the team. They haven't done it, Jake, since I've graduated high school. Like, I am almost 30 years old, and I haven't done it since I graduated high school. So, I can try to be optimistic. I can try to be all sunshine and rainbows like you, buddy, but I got to see it, man. I can buy in after. Give me a win this week, and then you'll start seeing me buy in a little bit. But I need to see that win first.
So the problem with me is I always see things through the lens of what should happen, not what is always most realistically going to happen. And yeah, I mean, the Colts have not won in week 1 since 2013. And before that, I think it was 2009. So they've not been a great week 1 team for quite a long time. And conversely, Tua, I think, is 4-0 in week 1 games. So the Dolphins don't really lose in week 1. But with that said, again, I'm going to look at things how they should go, I think. So Shane handpicked this quarterback to run this offense. And so hopefully that means getting over the hump of these type of defenses and being a little more productive at least. You talked about the Ravens tree. Of course, they did beat the Ravens in that game with Gardner Minshew a few years ago, despite Gardner Minshew not being able to see clear pressure coming off the edges. So again, I am on record saying I think Jones will at least be a little bit better than Minshew will be this year. So I don't think they're going to go out and score gobs of points by any means, but I do think they'll be able to do enough offensively. Love healthy Jonathan Taylor in this one. They always try to get him rolling week 1. All the factors I mentioned with getting Tyler Warren and Josh Downs going with yards after catch. Taylor, I don't know if Goodson's playing or not, but, Giddens, like, they have enough guys that I really like in this matchup. If they could just get past that front seven into the secondary, they have all the advantages in the world back there. They clearly have the better pass catchers versus that secondary that's beyond beat up. So offensively, I'm going to hope the right things happen. Defensively, Miami's offense is very, very predicated on, the quick strikes and timing and everything. Well, the Colts now have a defensive coordinator who likes to muddy the waters and make things very confusing for these quarterbacks. So will Lou Anarumo be able to kind of plant a seed of doubt every now and then into his mind as to what he's seeing or what they're going to switch to, whatever it is, to throw that timing off a little bit? I'm also going to hope that Laiatu Latu kind of flips it up a little bit and disrupts that timing as well. So Miami's going to make their plays, of course. Like, they're not going to – the Colts aren't going to stomp them by any means. But I do have the Colts winning 24-20, kind of a narrow one-score game. We're going to see some Spencer Schrader there. He's going to hit his extra points. He's going to nail a 50-plus yarder. But, yeah, it's again, I'm not going to throw a ton of confidence points on this one, but I do think the Colts have some advantages in some key areas. Like, I can see the path to victory for them. They just got to listen to me, Zach. They hardly ever do, but they just got to listen to me.
I will say my one closing remark is they should win this game. They absolutely should win this game. The Miami Dolphins have had a rough offseason just in terms of complaining about physicality in joint practices with opposing teams to the injuries they're coming to this game with their head coach being on the hot seat-ish, sort of, and, players wanting out of the system there. I mean, like, it has not been the greatest offseason for the Miami Dolphins. And this Colts team, for, again, how much we've talked about it being a weird offseason here, have bought a lot of veterans in here to win now. And they are going with the quarterback who gives them the better chance to win now, according to the head coach. So they need to win this game. They really do. So at the end of the day, that's going to be the biggest thing is, like, it's time to break this curse. It's time to prove that you made the right decision at quarterback and for your talent to really step up, because the Colts are the more talented roster in this game. So they need to win this game for sure on Sunday. Every game's a must win, but the home game honoring Jim Irsay to start off your week one against a team that's kind of average to below average, if in your win now season, you need to win this game. It doesn't get more plain than that. But that's all we have for today, guys. Don't worry, though. We'll be back with you on Sunday immediately after the game with our Colts squad show, 1 hour long of pure unfiltered reactions to what just happened in that game. I'm sure Alan's going to be going crazy in that one, regardless of win or loss. But that's what we have for today. Last week, though, you guys got the AFC South preview, and it's not too late to binge every Locked On division preview. Be the most informed NFL fan in an 8-episode series bringing you every division winner, breakout star, and Super Bowl contender. Find the link in the description to the Locked On NFL playlist on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And if you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at ZachKicks2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We love you guys' ratings, reviews. And again, we'll catch you guys back here on Sunday right after the Week 1 game.